few months ago, I got lost in YouTube hell and watched all of Cinefix's What's the Difference series. What's the Difference takes a film and compares it to its source material. And, like any self-respecting YouTube channel, they did Harry Potter. And, like any self-respecting Potterhead, I watched all 3 parts in one sitting. Cinefix specifically noticed a theme switch where the films focused on a coming-of-age story, while the books were more concerned with the hero's journey. So I've been watching a lot of Cinefix, every frame a painting, Nerd Writer 1, and lessons from the screenplay. So I've been itching to make my own video essay and offer a new argument. The changes in Hermione Granger's character from book to film represent a major problem in today's blockbuster films. Book Hermione, if accurately adapted to the screen, would be called a flawed character. She has lots of bushy brown hair and rather large front teeth. She struggles to make friends because she's seen as bossy. In her 4th year, she forms the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, or SPEW for short. A goal many people tell her is fruitless. She even forgets that she's a witch in a moment of panic.
Devil snare, what did Professor Sprout say? It likes the dark and the damp. So light a fire, Harry choked. Yes, of course. But there's no wood, Hermione cried, wringing her hands. Have you gone mad? Ron bellowed. Are you a witch or not?
I think this scene most accurately explains her as part of the trio's dynamic. She knew the solution to the problem at hand and does get Ron and Harry out of the devil's snare. She even remembered where to search in her memory for the answer. But in the heat of the moment, she forgets her most powerful asset, herself. Film Hermione has all of 0 character flaws. She is smart, she is pretty, she is powerful, and she is perfect.
I remember reading something in herbology. Devil snare. It's deadly fun, but will sulk in the sun, that's it! Devil snare hates sunlight.
In comparison to the scene before, this says something very different about Hermione. She remembers reading it somewhere, and she is able to not only come up with the answer, she has the solution at her fingertips. And it takes away Ron's use in the scene, and just uses him for a laugh.
Lucky we didn't panic.
This is one of the many times Hermione will take Ron's place in the trio. The changes made to Hermione's character are a result of something called the women are wiser trope. You can find examples of this in any comparison of a heterosexual sitcom couple.
I'm so full of bacon, my body's meant for shaking.
Once again, I have to be embarrassed for both of us.
Yep.
The husbands are often getting into trouble, and the wives get them out of trouble.
Do you know what the scissors are?
Doug, we have lived in this house for 9 years.
The fathers are good for a laugh, and the mothers are good for solving problems. The trope was most recently brought to the spotlight with the film Minions in 2015, when creator Pierre Coffin told the world, seeing how dumb and stupid they often are, he just couldn't imagine minions being girls, implying that girls are not and should not be dumb or stupid, but boys are allowed to be dumb and stupid. You've surely heard the phrase unrealistic expectations of women when discussing Photoshop and magazine covers, but the sentiment extends to mannerism and intelligence as well. On top of that, film Hermione is a touch more violent than book Hermione, punching Draco rather than slapping him. She's much less shaken after an unexpected Death Eater attack in the 7th film.
Go. Leave.
A surprising juxtaposition to her book reaction.
Hermione crawled out from underneath the bench, shaking bits of glass ashtray out of her hair and trembling all over. Diffindo, she said, pointing her wand at Ron, who roared in pain as she slashed open the knee of his jeans, leaving a deep cut. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ron. My hand's shaking. Diffindo!
Where in the film, she shows no sign of fear. I think Alana McAlf put it very well in her dissection of how strong women are being written in films today. They are caricatures, barely ideas, either a character sketch or a fork-in-the-road plot device. Change out the stilettos for combat boots and the message remains the same. Women are just pawns to be pushed from one scene to the next, their own agency never truly factoring in. Who would you rather be a role model for young girls? An infallible goddess that is impossible to live up to? or a young woman who is highly regarded by her friends, flaws included. As a secondary topic, film Hermione's added perfection and usefulness in the trio often takes away from film Ron's use within their dynamic. We have the example of the Devil's Snare from the first adaptation, where Ron ends up being played for laughs rather than the only one remembering they have magic.
Lucky we didn't panic. Lucky Hermione pays attention in herbology.
In the second film, Hermione explains what the word mudblood means to Harry.
Mudblood's a really foul name for someone who is muggle-born, someone with non-magic parents, someone like me. It's not a term one usually hears in civilized conversation.
With a little help from Hagrid, while Ron sits in the back, barfing up slugs.
It's disgusting.
In the book, Ron explains it to us, as he has grown up in the wizarding world, and has a better grasp of slang and slurs.
Malfoy called her Mudblood, Hagrid. He didn't, he growled at Hermione. He did, she said, but I don't know what it means. I could tell it was really rude, of course.
In Prisoner of Azkaban, the trio are facing Sirius Black for the first time, and thinking him to be a bloodthirsty murderer, Book Ron speaks to Black.
If you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too, he said fiercely, though the effort of standing upright was draining him of still more colour, and he swayed slightly as he spoke. Lie down. Did you hear me? Ron said weakly, though he was clinging painfully to Harry to stay upright. You'll have to kill all three of us.
In the films, this line is given to Hermione.
If you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too.
And Ron is left to blubber uselessly for the rest of the film. These sorts of changes are so embedded in the franchise at this point that it would be considered unfaithful to the characters for film Hermione to stumble or film Ron to be useful. So when we come across a scene like this one...
And as for this book, said Hermione, the tales of Beedle the Bard, I've never even heard of them. You've never heard of the tales of Beedle the Bard? Said Ron incredulously. You're kidding, right? Harry looked up, diverted. The circumstance of Ron having read a book that Hermione had not was unprecedented. Ron, however, looked bemused by their surprise.
The films have a chance to show film Ron knows more than film Hermione, but what do?
Mum used to read me those. The Wizard and the Hopping Pot, Babbity Rabbity and the Cackling Stump. Come on. Babbity Rabbity.
Play it for the laughs. Because at this point, film Ron has been firmly established as the petulant child, always making a fool of himself or being grumpy. Also that film Hermione could live up to an impossible standard of womanhood. Why is any of this important? Because the Harry Potter films have a great impact on how the majority of fans view the story as a whole. Very few will argue that more people read the books than watch the movies for entertainment, and it is easier just to pop in a DVD than to sit and crack open a book. I am equally guilty of this, hearing Robbie Coltrane's perfect inflections for Hagrid while reading the original texts, as well as many other wonderful performances from the films. I'd just like everyone watching this to understand that the major and minor differences do matter in book to film adaptations. Though I highly doubt you can call some of these films adaptations when scenes can be as misconstrued as these.
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger, said Snape coolly. 5 more points from Gryffindor for being an insufferable know-it-all. Ron, who told Hermione she was a know-it-all at least twice a week, said loudly, You asked us a question and she knows the answer. Why ask if you don't want to be told?
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. Are you incapable of restraining yourself, or do you take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all?
He's got a point, you know. He's got a point, you know. He's got a point, you know.